Welcome, everybody. We have another good day to honor Robert Emmet. And not only Robert Emmet, but we're also in memory today of Jack O'Brien. I want to introduce a few people before we get started. And I also want to thank a lot of people. I want to thank the National Park Service to begin with, even though they don't have staff on Sundays. They really have done a wonderful job setting us up for today, cleaning up the park and also providing the speaking equipment. So I want to thank Rita in her absence, as well as all of the other people. And I want to thank some of the people who are here. First, let me introduce the musicians. Tony Zisselberger is on the box accordion, and Tony is my mentor on the box accordion too. And Jessica Zito on the fiddle, and Mitch Fanning on the fiddle. Thank you for coming and serving this event. We have several of Jack O'Brien's relatives here today, and I'm very thankful for that. Jack's brother, Obi. Raise your hand, Obi. And Jack's niece, Molly. And Jack's granddaughter, Casey. We have two of the board members of the Military Road School Preservation Trust, Teresa and Pat. And I also want to thank all of our friends from the AOH, as well as my colleagues from the Irish American Unity Conference for coming today. And we have our videographer and one of our speakers in Keith Carney to my right. And in particular, I want to welcome the Deputy Ambassador of Ireland, Fionnuala Quinlan, who will also be providing some remarks to us today. Thank you for coming. Is anybody? I don't think you have any colleagues here today. Is that right? Okay. Thank you for coming. So we're here to commemorate Robert Emmet. And Keith, you need to remind me to stay still, and I will remind all of our speakers to stay still so that he can get not only the pickup of our voices, but also keep us in the picture. We're here to commemorate Robert Emmet, of course. This park was for him, and I'll say a few words about him shortly. But we're also here in memory of Jack O'Brien. If Robert Emmet was the ultimate Irish patriot and martyr, Jack O'Brien was the ultimate modern Irish patriot. He inspired so many of us, and equally important, he did so much good for Ireland and Irish culture in America. Keith will provide his... Well, gosh, Jack, I didn't think I was saying anything bad about you. Jack was instrumental in this park. I'm going to leave most of the words about Jack to Keith, who will be speaking in a little bit about his really good friend Jack. But just very briefly, Jack was instrumental in establishing this park in Emmet's name and getting it renamed for Robert Emmet 9 years ago. And he was also instrumental in getting the statue refurbished. And he did an awful lot more than simply this park for Irish America. So we remember him, and he's still a great loss to a lot of us. By the way, I forgot to mention, there are programs for today over on the table for anybody who wants to pick one up. Robert Emmet. Robert Emmet is the ultimate Irish patriot. Why do we remember Emmet? We remember him because, of course, his iconic speech, which has reverberated through the ages and inspired so many Irish risings. Most of them failed until 1916. He was an icon to all of the 1916 rebels, and he is still an icon today. We are, a lot of us are still agitating for the full realization of what Emmet wanted, which was a free, independent, entire united Ireland, which we do not yet have, but we will achieve. Jack always wanted us to achieve it during his lifetime. Now I can say what he always said to me, I hope we achieve it during my lifetime. But I know it will happen, and that means a lot to me. I was at an event yesterday in Fort Stevens, up in north, off of Georgia Avenue, to commemorate an Irish-American woman, an African-American woman, a free African-American woman who gave up her farm and her home to accommodate Fort Stevens when the Army was building it at the beginning of the Civil War. And the theme of the day was the struggle of black Irish women. And one person captured it perfectly when she said that the day is about equality and justice and freedom. And I thought immediately how relevant to why we are here today. Because Robert Emmet was about justice and equality and freedom. And he inspired so many of us, and he continues to do that. His speech from the dock is just an amazing document. I wish we had time to read the entire speech at this event, but we will be hearing from John Gutman in a little bit, some excerpts which he has chosen for that. One more word, by the way, about the statue behind me. The statue behind me was commissioned in 1916, and it was dedicated the next year. It took a year to construct it. It was built by Jerome Connor, an Irish sculptor who had come to America at the age of 14. He was commissioned for this statue, and it was dedicated with many congressional people, including the Speaker of the House at the time, John McCormick, and Woodrow Wilson also offered his congratulations on it. It was originally in the Smithsonian Museum of Art downtown because it was gifted to the Smithsonian. 50 years later, after the Rising of 1916, in 1966, this statue was repositioned here in this park. And at that time, it was recognized as a proper tribute and a proper place to be where more people could appreciate Robert Emmet. And at that time, President Johnson sent his words, which I have here somewhere. His words of note said, "It is entirely fitting that this likeness of Robert Emmet should grace the national parklands in the District of Columbia. He cherished the dream that each man should have the fullest measure of freedom. We Americans are proud to accord a place of honor here in the nation's capital to Robert Emmet, whose struggles and sacrifices bespeak the yearnings of mankind throughout the ages." And it seems particularly appropriate at this time in America where we are troubled with a lot of stuff which is going on, that we remember Robert Emmet in the words of Lyndon Johnson 50 years ago, 59 years ago, whenever it was. In 2016, 50 years after the statue was brought out here, the statue was rededicated with congressional members here to laud that, and that was an appropriate time too because it was the centenary of the Rising. And then in 2019, again thanks to Jack O'Brien's efforts, Senator Lisa Murkowski of Alaska led legislation which named this park after Robert Emmet. And doesn't Robert Emmet Park sound a lot better than Reservation 302? So we owe a lot to not only Robert Emmet and our heritage and our fight for freedom, but we also owe a lot to Jack O'Brien for bringing us to where we are today. With that, I'm going to turn the mic over to Keith Carney. Keith is the founder and president of FedNet, the streaming and video service which records congressional hearings and other events in Washington for broadcasting. He is also former director of the AOH and president of the local AOH chapter, and probably Keith's best friend.
Thank you, Peter. Can you hear me? This microphone is sort of in and out. Can you hear me okay? Okay, good. Thank you for coming. Jack O'Brien had an interesting history with this park. And Jack was always trying to improve the park. And there used to be a cedar tree. Was it a cedar? It was a big pine tree that grew over top of our fine Robert Emmet statue behind me. And one night I got a call. I was the vice president of the DC board of the AOH, and I get a call from the Massachusetts Avenue Garden Society. And I don't know if anyone is here from that organization, but I did see people driving by looking, so they might have been wondering what was going on here. And they said, are you with the AOH? And I said, yes, I am. And they said, well, we have a problem. I said, well, what's the problem? They said, someone is cutting branches off of the tree at the park. And I said, well, I'll look into that and I'll get back to you. So we had a state board meeting and the question came up and Jack turned beet red, denying everything. And he then got the nickname of Captain Midnight because he would come at night and literally cut branches off because he thought that they were damaging the statue. Jack and I worked on a lot of projects, this being one of the main ones, and I am so happy to see Betsy Braun behind us, who was with the Smithsonian, and she was instrumental, as Peter said. The statue is owned by the Smithsonian. It's on loan here to the Park Service. And I once met the director of the Park Service here in Washington at a dinner. Ireland was dedicating a plaque that was being installed in the Washington Monument. And they had a big welcome dinner and they were unveiling the plaque, and we were going to go the next day for the installation and a big ceremony. So I sat next to the head of the Park Service and I said, it's always difficult working with the Park Service. I said, it's very hard to get cooperation. And he said, our policy is to say no. And no to Jack O'Brien was like fuel on a fire, because he would not take no for an answer. So we would go meeting after meeting. This park, Reservation 302, was part of the Rock Creek Parkway, or Rock Creek branch of the National Park Service. So we would go to meetings up in Rock Creek day after day, meeting and discussing, and we had to give testimony. Jack gave testimony. Peter, you might have been there as well, I think, in a downtown group, some organization the DC government put up. But Jack, as always, was relentless in not accepting no for an answer. And to have Betsy by his side, it was an unbelievable team that the Park Service would never win. So we spent a lot of time designing, raising money. The plaque is there. The park's been restored. The pine tree is down. So Jack is resting up in heaven, and I'm very happy to report that. Jack always went for one more, and the one more was, as Peter mentioned, it took an act of Congress to change the name from Reservation 302 to Robert Emmet Park. And Joe Crowley introduced H.R. 1500, and it was passed in 2017. And it was to designate this, but literally you need an act of Congress to do this. The Park Service won't do it voluntarily. So we've done that. Over the years working with Jack, he was probably one of the most generous men I've ever met. He was relentless. He was always calm in meetings. And probably one of his greatest, and I don't know who taught him this, but anytime we had a meeting, Jack would insist on taking pictures. He was never in the pictures, but he always took pictures of all the participants. And he would print those pictures out. It used to be he would take them with 35 millimeter film. Then he finally graduated to his other cameras. But he was relentless in sucking people in, because he would send out, he had a list. And it was almost like Christmas when you would get this white envelope, big white envelope in the mail with a Kelly Green return address and Free Ireland stamp on it. But you would get 20, 30 photos at a time. And he had a list of probably 50 people. They were members of Congress. They were the head of the Park Service. Betsy, your files were probably overflowing with them. But every project that he did, Jack insisted on making everyone who was there part of the project. And he would never relent. It was just a constant drumbeat. And if Jack O'Brien could have gotten a hold of social media, the world would be much different today, because he would get anything he wanted. But he was a beautiful man, and I'll end with this. His generosity, he didn't care who you were. He didn't care if you were an ambassador. He didn't care if you were a waiter. He didn't care if you were a bartender or just someone on the street. If he had your ear, he became your friend. And something reminded me of that when I walked up, and the O'Brien family was nice to put out a number of mementos here. And the story is this. Jack and I went to Murphy's in Old Town for lunch. And the waitress's name was Erin. And he was beside himself. He was, as we say, a charmer with the ladies. But he was he just met this woman, and instantly it was like she was family, and he insisted. He got me one of these blocks of granite, and on the bottom is Erin. And he said, "Keith, you need to deliver this to Erin, our waitress." He had met her over a lunch that she was taking care of us. But that was Jack. He was just a beautiful man. I miss my friend. DC misses him. The Irish community misses him. And I hope he's looking down on us today. And Jack, I delivered. So thank you.
Thank you, Jack. I know that he is smiling after hearing that wonderful tribute to him. I'll add one little humorous anecdote to this story. When we were petitioning to get the wayside put in here about 10 years ago, Jack and I had submitted testimony, but they had a hearing down here in the local community, Massachusetts Avenue group, whatever they call them. And my late wife, Sharon Murphy, was also very active, and she and I went down to the hearing just to see what people were saying. And somewhere through the hearing, some guy raises his hand, and he says, "Some guy went down there and cut down part of that cedar tree. Did we ever find out who it was?" And Sharon and I we had to smother a laugh. It was so funny. So Jack's legend lived on in the community. With that, I want to introduce a special guest. Deputy Ambassador Fionnuala Quinlan has been with the Irish Department of Foreign Affairs for quite a long time, and she was previously the ambassador to Kenya, and before that she was the Irish consul in Boston. And we are looking forward very much, Fionnuala, from hearing what you have to say today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Peter. I hope everybody can hear me okay. I'm under strict instructions from Keith, so. Friends, members of the Ancient Order of Hibernians, the Irish-American Unity Conference, distinguished guests, members of the O'Brien family, it's a privilege to join you here today to honour the memory of Robert Emmet, who, as you all know, was one of Ireland's most significant patriots. Though his life was tragically short, and we can see that behind us in the years from his birth to his death, his words and his ideals continue to inspire all who believe in liberty, justice, and national self-determination. This commemoration is also a reminder of the deep and historic ties between Ireland and the United States. Those bonds were forged by generations of Irish immigrants who carried with you, a fierce pride in Irish heritage, a devotion to democracy, and a belief in the enduring friendship between Ireland and America. In that regard, the Ancient Order of Hibernians, and of course the Irish-American Unity Conference, have been steadfast friends to Ireland. You've kept alive the flame of Irish culture, history, and political engagement across this country, and we're deeply, deeply grateful for that partnership. As we look to America 250, the 250th anniversary of this great nation's independence, your role will be more important than ever. With the AOH, with your national network and rich tradition, will be a vital partner in ensuring that Ireland's voice and history and contributions across the United States are celebrated. And I see we've just been joined by Kevin Sullivan as well, who's going to play a really important role in the marking the role of the Irish in this great 250th milestone year. But I also want to pay a really warm tribute to Jack O'Brien. Today is especially poignant because we remember him. I never had the honour of knowing him, but I feel like I do now, having heard Keith's very warm tribute and Peter's very warm tribute, and I look forward to talking to you, Obi, and Molly and Casey a little bit later. We know very well that Jack's tireless efforts helped shape this park into a place of remembrance, but so much more. And Jack's legacy will endure not only here at Robert Emmet Park, but in the countless lives that he touched through his leadership and his friendship. We remember him today with deep respect and deep gratitude. I'm delighted, as I said, to welcome his brother Obi and other members of his family, Casey and Molly. Your presence reminds us that Jack's work is not only a matter of history, but part of a living legacy that'll be carried forward by his family and all who were inspired by him, and indeed by Robert Emmet. We reflect today also on Ireland's commitment to peace and reconciliation. Some of you may be aware that on Friday last, the Irish and British government signed a legacy framework, which is another important milestone on the road to reconciliation and underscores Ireland's determination to address painful legacies of the past, to secure justice and truth for victims and survivors, and to ensure that future generations inherit not division, but hope. I'm going to wrap it up there, but I hope we'll have an opportunity to speak a little bit more. I want to thank you for inviting me here today. It's a great honour to be here. And thank you for your continuing commitment to Ireland and to the legacy of Robert Emmet. Gur míle maith agaibh galore. Thank you very much. Thanks, Peter.
Thank you very much, Fionnuala. We always appreciate hearing the embassy's thoughts on where we are today and where we are with Robert Emmet and what he means. Now, speaking of Emmet, we circle back to Robert, and we're going to hear some of his words, the speech from the dock. And I might just mention, for those who don't know, the speech from the dock was delivered after 12 hours of a kangaroo trial. at which Emmet had been forced to stand the entire time, was not allowed to take any breaks, was not allowed to eat anything. And after all that time, and after he had been sentenced to be hanged, drawn, and quartered the next day, he had the presence of mind and the great passion to deliver an incredible speech. So I'm going to ask John Gutman, one of our board members on the IEUC, to come up and read a few of his excerpts.
Thank you, Peter. Can you hear me? Let me start by just saying something personal. My name is Austrian, but my mother was a Kelly. And every generation of our Kellys has had a son named Robert Emmet, we know at least as far back as 1856. I can't speak before that, although I'm digging and trying to learn more. So, and we're not related, but it says something about the family's political leanings, I'll say that. So I'm going to read two brief excerpts from his statement in the dock on September 19th, 1803, remarks that he said were being made before the ignominy of the scaffold. And as Peter indicated, it wasn't just the scaffold. The first is a brief reference to America. Emmet was, one of the charges against him was that he conspired with the French against the English throne. This is part of what he had to say in response. I wished to procure for my country the guarantee which Washington procured for America. To procure an aid which by its example would be as important as its valor, disciplined, gallant, pregnant with science and experience, who would preserve the good and polish the rough points of our character. They would come to us as strangers and leave us as friends after sharing our perils and elevating our destiny. These were my objects, not to receive new taskmasters, but to expel old tyrants. These were my views, and these only became Irishmen. These were my objects, and these were my views, these only became Irishmen. It was for these ends I sought aid from France, because France, even as an enemy, could not be more implacable than the enemy already in the bosom of my country. And these were Emmet's final words from the dock. My lords, you are impatient for the sacrifice. The blood which you seek is not congealed by the artificial terrors that surround your victim. It circulates warmly and unruffled through the channels which God created for nobler purposes, but which you are bent to destroy for purposes so grievous that they cry to heaven. Be ye patient. I have but a few words more to say. I am going to my cold and silent grave. My lamp of life is nearly extinguished. My race is run. The grave opens to receive me, and I sink into its bosom. I have but one request to ask at my departure from this world. It is the charity of its silence. Let no man write my epitaph, for as no man who knows my motives dare now vindicate them, let not prejudice or ignorance asperse them. Let them and me repose in obscurity and peace, and my tomb remain uninscribed until other times and other men can do justice to my character. When my country takes her place among the nations of the earth, Then and not till then let my epitaph be written. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Very, very well read. I always thought that last line should have been Jack O'Brien's epitaph. Let it not be written until Ireland is totally free and united. That pretty much wraps up our program, except I'm going to ask Keith to step up to the microphone again. He's got some information to share with us about an upcoming event, actually about two upcoming events.
Thank you, Peter. So the AOH has organized a reception up in Philadelphia, actually in Camden, New Jersey, across from Philadelphia, that will be the kickoff to a museum display that we are putting on board the Battleship New Jersey Museum and Memorial in honor of Commodore John Barry, the father of the American Navy and the first commissioned officer in the United States Navy. So that will be in 2 short weeks on October 3rd. There are tickets available. It's going to be a great reception. The ambassador will be there to fire guns on Philadelphia. She just told me no live rounds. And the ship has promised us that they will be lighting the ship green. So it's a wonderful venue. We're going to have great entertainment and a great turnout. We're looking forward to it. And this is part of the Navy's 250th anniversary, which is the week after. So we'll be the kickoff event and also the kickoff event for Irish America 250, and Kevin Sullivan is here to answer any questions. I encourage you to go and talk to Kevin about the efforts that Irish America 250 is putting together. And we're out to make sure that the country never forgets the Irish contribution to winning this country's freedom and fighting and giving up their lives and putting everything on the line as they left Ireland to come here. So it's going to be an interesting 250th in America next year in all the celebrations, and we look forward to seeing you all at the events. Kevin may offer people a way to sign up and get information on it, but it's a great group that he's forming to make sure that Irish Americans all over the country are going to be properly recognized. So thank you all, and Peter, back to you.
Thank you, Keith. What a nice way to wrap up the day. It's bringing us forward into the fall with some more events to celebrate Irishness, and that is really great to hear. So before we break up, I just want to again thank the Deputy Ambassador Fanula for your remarks, for your presence here today. I want to thank again our musicians, Tony, Jessica, and Mitch. And as we break up, maybe you could grace us with a few more tunes. And thank you, John, for the words of Emmet. And of course, thank you, Keith, for all of your contributions. So thanks, everybody.
That's very nice.
Yeah, let's do a picture. Yeah, nice event. It's always a nice event.
Yeah.